Hello, welcome to Late Night Creations. My name is Kendra and I'm glad you're here for the Thrift Flip Road Trip. I've got a few items that I made over and I'm excited to share them with you. Let's get started. Okay, on our first little flip here, I picked up this little decor piece at Goodwill for $1 and a penny. And I sanded it all down real good. I ended up taking it outside and sanding it with my orbital sander and getting it all sanded down. And I'm using some aged gray by Rust-Oleum. And while it's still wet, this is a little bit different technique that I usually use. I'm taking some ink by Waverly, and while the gray is still in my brush, I'm getting just a little bit of that black on there and wiping most of it off and just blending a little bit of that gray. I'm using a real light hand, but it's almost like a dark gray with a little bit of black in there. Okay, so I just cut a heart out. I used my Cricut. You could absolutely just cut it out by hand, trace it on there and cut it out by hand to make a little stencil. I taped it on with some masking tape, and I'm just pouncing it on with a little sponge pouncer with some red chalk paint. And I don't care if it has super great coverage. I just really want to get around the edges really good so the edges will be crisp. And then I'm gonna pull it off and ta-da. Okay, I made this little decal with HTV iron-on vinyl. That's what it is, vinyl. And I'm ironing it on. This method works pretty good. I've never had it fail, and I didn't want to peel off all my nice paint that I'd worked so hard to paint on there. And this doesn't peel off the paint, obviously. And so it worked really good. Now I lost my two little dots on my 1 Corinthians 3:8, and so I'm gonna put them on with a Sharpie. But I love this. Love never fails. God's love never fails, and we're supposed to be like Christ. So we need to always love others like He loves us. I think this little decor piece turned out cute. Okay, here we go. Next stop on this Thrift Flip Road Trip. Okay, this little clock I've had in my stash. Can't even remember exactly where it came from. And I just am going to dry brush it. I'm doing a little heavier than dry brush. It's gonna almost look white when I get through. I just keep layering it on, and I like the dry brush method because it dries super fast. And then I can make you know, if I want it heavier, then I can get it heavier. You know what I'm saying? I can make coats if I want to. Do multiple layers if I want to. And then it doesn't really look like a solid coat. And then I'm just going to take my little piece of t-shirt and wipe it once it's dry, just almost like a whitewash. It really looks more like a whitewash, I suppose. Then I have these rub-on transfers I've been using for several projects, and I'm just going to cut out this little pink flower that I think is adorable, and I'm just going to rub it on this little clock. I just found what works, and I'm just going to rub it on there. I'm going to cut those little berries off, and I am going to put them around the clock somewhere. I don't remember where I put them, but I did add them back in. And these rub-on transfers work really good. I got them on Amazon. No, I did not. Amazon or Etsy, one. But I did look for them again, and they're sold out. Then I'm just going to add that little butterfly up here in the corner. And these are small little rub-ons, and they work great for small projects. And I think this turned out really cute. It was so simple and so easy. This little clock is really lightweight. It almost feels like it might be hollow. I don't know. But I'm going to put, this needs a battery, obviously, but I'm going to put the little clock face right back in there. It was new. It's old, but it had never been used. So I think it turned out really cute. Let me know what you think. That looks kind of vintage to me. I don't know. Anyway, okay, we're moving right along on this trip. We are speeding. So I had this spindle in my stash, and this is more of a trash to treasure, but I decided to throw it in because it turned out really pretty. And I had that candle jar. So this candle jar had, I took all the wax out, cleaned it up, and I'm using this DIY white wax, and I'm just going to layer it on. I'm putting it on, and then I kind of let it dry a little bit, and then I put another layer on and let it dry a little bit. And I just kept doing that until I got the look I wanted. I wanted it to look a little bit, I don't know if frosted is the right look I was going for, but I had a look in my head. You know how you just have a look in your head that you're going for, and you know when you achieve it. Well, I achieved it. Now I'm just going to paint this little piece of a spindle. I just cut it the length that I wanted it, and then I'm going to sand it because I want it to be distressed. So I've got my little sanding block, and I'm just randomly sanding some of it off, some of it all the way back down to the wood, and some of it not so much. Then I'm going to use the DIY clear wax on the spindle to seal it, and back with my little piece of t-shirt, old white undershirt of my husband's that I cut up into small pieces to buff with or to clean with or whatever I need it for. And now I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue to adhere this spindle to my glass candle jar. I'm going to put it right in the middle. It's easy to see because it's clear, and I think this turned out so pretty. Let me know what you think. This Thrift Flip Road Trip Open Challenge is hosted by the Crafting Cousins, Kay and Trish, who are adorable, and Unicorn Dust Designs, Sammy, who is absolutely hilarious and talented. It is the second Saturday of every other month, and it is an open challenge, so if you are a creator and you're interested in joining this challenge, all you have to do is go over to Instagram and message one of those two ladies, or you can leave a comment in the description box below, and I'll help you get in contact with them. Okay, here we go on our next stop. This one was a little bit longer. This was a frame that I had picked up at a thrift store a while back, and I have some White Lightning cleaner by Dixie Belle, and I cleaned it up really good because it was a little bit grunge. And I'm out on the porch of my craft cottage sanding it with my orbital sander. Now, I couldn't get in all the nooks and crannies with that sander, and I just didn't want to go to all the trouble to sand it. So I'm just going to give it a few coats. This paint, the first coat just kind of slid around a little bit, but I was patient, and I gave it 2 good coats. So in between the coats of drying, I took my Mod Podge and I just Mod Podged all over this piece of mat board. And I cut this mat board to fit my frame. And then I got this canvas drop cloth that I've been using for years. This big drop cloth I bought at, I believe I got mine, well, I've bought them at Home Depot and I've bought them on Amazon. I've used them for different projects. But this is the one I've been crafting with. And I should not have ironed that on. I should have used some tacky glue because it would have worked much better. The iron-on Mod Podge didn't work that great. I'm just telling you. It worked okay, but the tacky glue would have worked better to tack it down with. Now I'm using some dark wax by DIY, and I just dry brushed a little bit on there, and then I let it dry before I used a piece of old t-shirt to buff it, because I wanted it to not blend too much. I wanted to be able to actually see that wax on there. And then I just kept rubbing it so that it would go ahead and seal it. And now I'm just trimming off that excess drop cloth from that mat. I'm kind of all over the place with this project, but you're going to get it. So I covered that mat with the drop cloth to put in this frame. See? And then I'm going to run some hot glue all around the edges of that to put it in there, but not yet. First, I'm gonna put some painter's tape on it to hold it in place so that I can see where I'm gonna place my stripe. I'm gonna use this painter's tape, and I'm gonna make some, I think it's called a French stripe. I'm not positive. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's called a French stripe. So I'm gonna use this. I do things a little bit backwards, but I'm gonna use, see how that is wanting to pull up. If I had glued that down, that would have stayed way better. So I just had put that in the frame so I could see the placement, because I didn't want my stripes to, you know, be underneath the frame. So that's why I went to that, did that extra step in there. So now I'm just trying to get this tape down straight so my stripes will be straight and not crooked, and all this work was worth it because it ends up being straight. So I just put down a piece of tape, and then however wide I wanted my oh my gosh, I was struggling here. I wasn't struggling, I just had to do a lot of extra steps that I would not have had to do if I had just glued the canvas down instead of Mod Podged it. So now I want that to be 1 inch wide. I want my stripe to be 1 inch wide. So now I'm going to put the next painter's tape down 1 inch over. And then I'm going to paint it with that same red I painted my frame with. And I'm just using a sponge and just going along those edges and just making a nice thick coat on here. Then I'm just going to pull that tape off. And I'm not going to reuse that because I pulled it up wet and I just put it in the trash. That Dollar Tree painter's tape is pretty cheap, so that's what I'm going to do. But now I want this to be a thin stripe. So I'm going halfway in the middle of that masking tape. And I'm just going to make a skinny little stripe on each side of that big red stripe. Now, there's really, I don't know, I do things, like I said, kind of backwards, but it all makes sense to me. So you do it however it makes sense to you, if you choose to do this. So I'm going to make a skinny stripe on each side of that wide stripe. This is just how I chose to do it. So I'm just pouncing that paint on there. Okay, now while I'm letting that dry, I've got these little hearts from Dollar Tree. They come multiples in a package. And so I'm going to paint 2 of them red and I'm going to paint 2 of them white. And I just used a little sponge and pounced it all on there. And hindsight, I should have painted them, well, I'm not sure if I should have painted them differently. I don't know. When I went to arrange them in the frame, I was kind of confused because I think they should have been different on there. I don't know. You let me know what you think. If I should have painted both. Okay, here we go. So should I have painted both hearts that had the, you see what I'm saying? Both hearts that have the hearts in them, should they have both been red? No, they should not have been. But now I have them on top of each other. I don't know. I think I overthink things a lot. But anyway, I was just kind of getting the placement there. Now, I'm putting some hot glue down. I'm going to put that mat back in there. And then I'm going to run some hot glue around the edges too to put it in there a little bit more. Now I'm measuring so I can get all my hearts, get my hearts in order. And then where those little dot circles are in there that we usually fill up with some wood filler if we're not going to string them, I'm going to use those to line them back up. But no worries, because we're going to put some little twine bows on top of there to cover up those little holes. And this is probably my favorite in this whole video. I absolutely love this frame. I did not take this to my craft booth. I think I'm going to keep it. Don't forget to check out the playlist and see all the other beautiful creations on this road trip. I had this jar that I picked up, and it's pretty good size. So I'm going to use some Aleene's tacky glue. Love, love, love this stuff. It's super thick. I think it got thick, during the freeze. I've mentioned in previous videos that it froze. We had some few nights of freezing weather way down in the teens, and a lot of my paints and glues froze. Some of them survived, some of them did not. So I have another one of those white hearts that I painted white, And I'm trying to decide if I want to use this red and white baker's twine to wrap around this jar, or if I want to use that red twine that's over in the upper left-hand corner. And I choose the solid red, just because it was a little thicker, and I don't know, I just thought it looked better. Now, I should have puttied up that hole, but I do fix it in the end, so all ends well. So I'm just going to wrap this red twine around this jar. Around and around the jar we go. And here we go. I'm going to tighten it up and get it all straight. And I think this is super cute. I saw something similar, maybe on Etsy or somewhere like that. They were small jars, and I think she used burlap, and it was a different kind of heart or something. So I thought, I'm going to see if I can create that with that big jar I have. So I should have probably posted a picture of hers, but mine looks totally different than hers. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with these strings, and I wanted a bow on there, but I couldn't figure out where. It didn't look right when I put it over the hole. So I had some white putty, and I just put some white putty over that hole. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making these items. I love everything hearts, and I hope you do too. And I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.